Hello and welcome to Practical Inclusion, coming to you after an extra long weekend. So I'm not sure how many of you are back at work straight away, and if you're struggling through the day, maybe this will give you a little bit of a pick-me-up, an easy listen to for half an hour. Thanks for joining us. I want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I broadcast from today, which is the land of the Wadawurrung people, and pay my respect to their elders past, present and emerging, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who happen to be listening in today, either live through Facebook or LinkedIn or on the replays. My guest, Lauren, whose land do you broadcast in from today?
I'm on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and would also like to pay my respects. Thanks, Bree.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Now, I'm excited today because it's not often that you get to run a show with a world champion as your guest. So this is like a bit of a fan person moment for me. But I'm so excited to have Lauren on. Lauren, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe start with, you're a world champion. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool tagline, isn't it? So my name's Lauren. I use she, they pronouns, and I play roller derby. And I was very fortunate enough after hard work for my team to be the first non-American team to win the world title in 2017. So that's my story.
It's just incredible. I can't imagine the hard work that goes into that. And I've only seen one game of roller derby, and I need to go and see more because it is a fascinating sport that I'm sure many listeners don't actually know much about at all. So I'd encourage people to go and check it out and go and see. What do you call it? A game, an event?
We call it a bout, and a bout is made up of 2-minute jams, or a maximum of 2 minutes. So very similar to ice hockey. You sort of have like a few players on, and then that jam will end, and then you'll get another 4 blockers and 1 jammer to go on. So lots of people on roller skates flying around.
Yeah, awesome. And we might put a link in the comments here, or reach out if anybody wants to know. I know you did a podcast interview recently where you explained the game, which was really cool. So maybe we can send that through. I'm interested today in some of the work you're doing in inclusion in sport. Can you give us a bit of a rundown of your background in inclusion and what it is that you're doing now in this space?
Yeah, so I guess like a lot of young girls who were quite active, I really love sport, and it was a big part of my life ever since I was a young person. And I started to notice the inequities based on my gender when I hit about high school. And from there, I remember, running around trying to get a teacher to take, our soccer team somewhere when the boys had all these opportunities and we didn't. So I think from that age, it really instilled this sort of desire in me for fairness within sport, particularly from a gendered lens. So I went on to study sport and got my master's in exercise physiology, and was working as a clinician for many years in that field, helping people in a similar stream of physiotherapy with movement as a way of rehabilitation, as a way of happiness. It was a way of helping each other. And then I thought, why am I discharging all of these people back to their community and there's no opportunities for them? I just really couldn't understand. So I started working in the inclusive sector for local government, and what that involved was actually understanding underrepresented groups in the community and providing them with opportunities to do free or supported exercise, and getting to know different groups and saying, what do you need? What do you want? And from there, I now work at a LGBTIQ inclusive organisation called Proud to Play, where we primarily work with rainbow inclusion in the sporting sector. So that's what I do in inclusion.
Yeah, awesome. So when you were in the council role, who was the common person you were trying to create inclusive sport for? Who are getting, traditionally excluded from sport in this country?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. In our sort of review of who we want to help, it really came down to the fact that women are 51% of the population. So I was really pushing in council to work with our gender equity officer and provide opportunities for women and girls. So that was a big part of the work there. And I also think it's lower hanging fruit in inclusion work with traditional clubs who are primarily designed and servicing men. So that was a big part of the work that we did in terms of with traditional sporting clubs. That said, we also worked with a lot of cultural groups that were more community based. So with our community centres, we would have a connection with the Somali community, and we set up a lot of opportunities for them to complete different types of movement and exercise. And we're just making sure, do you have an instructor that you like? Are they getting paid? What else can we do for you? And it was really a kind of person-centered design there of going to the marginalised groups and saying, hey, what do you need? Which I think is a great way to approach sort of community-based inclusion. So I kind of separated it into, we had clubland, which is primarily how do we get gender equity on the table. Particularly, it was at a time when board quotas were coming out, and we were really had a bit of policy behind us from the government to support that. And then separately, community-based work.
Yeah, cool. So following on from that, because you and I have spoken about this previously, there's a lot of funding for women in sport currently, and there's a lot of great initiatives bringing women into sports that they haven't traditionally been represented in large numbers, I suppose. So things like cricket, football, there's plenty of sports now that have these type of initiatives. Do you see much work in the space where it is where that funding or those initiatives or that drive is being expanded beyond just women? So I know we've talked about non-binary people or gender diverse and trans people. How are those initiatives looking to include members of the LGBTI community? And is there opportunity there?
Yeah, I think that that gender expansive people we know are already disproportionately disadvantaged in accessing sporting environments, more so, I would confidently say, than cis women. And for those listening who might not know what that term means, it's someone whose gender matches what they're assigned with at birth, whereas a trans person, it does not match. So I do believe that there are disadvantages for everyone in the rainbow community, and I don't believe the funding matches the gender equity funding that we're seeing. And I think in some ways the women in sport funding is progressive. I think it includes people who, in their words, people who identify as a woman. That's the language used for Sport Australia to apply for a grant. And look, when we talk about women in the sector, we include cis and trans women, and that's the best way it's been ever explained to me. It's not women and trans women, because trans women are women. So I think it's really good distinction to just feel confident with, oh, what language do I use? Because often we get a little bit nervous with this. However, as you can see on my name down here, I'm exploring what pronouns work for me, and I'm currently in an exciting period where I'm thinking about pronouns and my gender and who I am. And sometimes I felt a bit nervous about trying on pronouns, but I also thought, can I be an ally, that it's okay to kind of maybe not know, and it's okay to one day be a she and one day be a they, and to just be figuring it out. So when I look at the Sport Australia grant and I see that you have to identify as a woman, and I'm such a prime candidate for those grants, I'd love to keep working in this space and helping everybody. If I wanted to apply for that on a day that I felt like a they, that makes me feel a bit nervous that my authentic identity might actually prevent my opportunities to help others in the sector. So I do think we've made progress, but we probably have a little bit more to go. And someone like Jade DuPont is probably a really great ally. I've definitely pronounced her name wrong, who's working in the LGBTIQ task force. And I think these sort of spaces are saying, hey, rainbow voices need a seat at the table and need to be included in all sort of gendered grants. And the way I sometimes talk about it is we're not talking about women, we're talking about underrepresented genders.
Yeah.
So when I have people that come to me and say, what do we do for International Women's Day? How do we include non-binary people? I say, that's a great question. Thank you for including underrepresented genders. And that's what you can celebrate on this day. So I think it's just about shifting the language and the attention, and it's about acknowledging the separateness that gender expansive people have. They don't want to be women, that's why they're a gender non-binary or whatever, but they do get lumped together. And I think that's hopefully something that we can continue to champion forward, is the separateness and inclusiveness. It's tricky.
Yeah, God, but I love the way you've described that, and I really like that tip about underrepresented genders. I'm definitely going to be using that. I totally relate to so many things you've just said there, but particularly I want to pick out this concept. One of the things that's really, prolific currently in the sports space is there's courses for women to get into sports leadership or administration, governance. There's recently in Geelong, there's a women's cricket competition. They ran a specific coaching clinic for people coaching women. And these type of things, to me, kind of leading what you were talking a bit, they feel a bit exclusive, because sure, there might be some value in doing those activities, but I'm thinking, the coaches are going off to learn how to coach women. What are they teaching that's different? How are they teaching that skill, that cricket skill, differently than what they would for people who are non-binary or for men? And I feel like so many of these women in sport initiatives actually cement the gender stereotypes even more so than they were previously. So they really kind of reinforce the gender stereotypes by playing into gender and the idea of what a woman is, how a woman likes to behave, how they like to play sport. You see this where it's constantly, women just want social games. So I know there's a cricket thing called social sixes, and I know that in other codes they have something similar, and they're like, yeah, women just want to do that. They want to have a champagne or a cup of tea and a scone and have a hit and a giggle. Some women do, but some women and non-binary people actually want to play a little bit more seriously. So I think this generalization thing gets me a little hot under the collar, because it does head down that path of reinforcing stereotypes.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what a great program for a semi-elite woman to run. So I think I love the This Girl Can research and program. And I do agree that from this research, we know that inactive women, which are a high percentage of the population, are more likely to engage in physical activity that's social, that's fun, that's beginner friendly, that's suitable around childcaring times. However, at the same point, we need elite pathways for women and for gender expansive people as well. So I can see the benefit in both. And I think it depends what continuum we're on. If we're a club that already has women's teams and we're doing really great and we're looking at more layers of inclusion, that's when we start talking about, instead of saying, hey guys, hey ladies, we start saying, hey everyone, hey folks, and we layer our inclusion practice with a little bit more awareness and accountability for the rainbow community, people with disabilities, etc. But it's interesting, in Sport Australia trends show it's not just women. We don't, unfortunately, have a lot of evidence on gender expansive people, but it's not just women who want social sporting opportunities. This is a trend that we're seeing everywhere, and yet we're still continuing to spend millions of dollars on infrastructure funding. So what are we actually doing to promote social sport in our club for all genders? And what would it look like if we had a social sporting option for all genders. It's a family-friendly day. Everyone comes along and has a play. Melbourne University doing a great job at this, at the All Gender Series. Softball recently just had a launch. We've just started at our roller derby club a rainbow rolling program primarily targeted at the rainbow community. And what we thought people were coming to roller skate and to learn all these little skills, next minute I'm hearing someone text me about their relationship breakdown and how they're really struggling, but they want to come along, and how someone's traveling all the way from Werribee to Preston to roller skate because there's no other spaces that they feel safe in their community to be an out person amongst other people from that underrepresented group. So, I digress a little bit, but I think we need inclusive spaces that are socially designed. The goal is to have fun, and then we need those pathways. Something like AFLW is doing such a great job. You've got young girls and non-binary people saying, wow, I can be an elite athlete. That wasn't a job title up for grabs back in the day. Like, how exciting. So I think it's really about meeting the individual and saying, where do you want to head? But you're right. We don't want to assume that everyone wants to have a hit and a coffee. There needs to be an individual approach. And I think part of that is amplifying visibility of elite athletes who are awesome, who look different, who are all different shapes and sizes. I remember a little while ago, I saw a picture of Serena Williams with cellulite doing an amazing forearm. And the comment was, cellulite is powerful. And I was like, yes, how great that this person has really strong, beautiful thighs. And mine look like that too. Not that I can do an amazing forearm, but maybe one day.
Yeah. Don't count yourself out yet. And that's such a good point. And it makes me think around what you were talking earlier. You mentioned infrastructure, and I think you're right in that what we're doing is we're not being flexible enough with the options that we're providing. And we're perhaps, in a lot of cases, when we are looking to increase participation for women, we are we're just copying what's existed for the men. And I don't think we need to look at this in a binary way, because I think you're right. Nobody's asking the male cricketers if they would prefer to have a social sixes competition. Like, we're not actually going into, no, let's reimagine sport in Australia rather than every Saturday afternoon has to be footy and cricket, and other codes can fit in around the edges. Let's reimagine how we deliver sport. And we can deliver sport in social ways, and that's not just going to be attractive to women. It might be attractive to a whole range of people who want to access sport that way. Yeah, so I like what you're saying and where you're going, because it's about flexibility, it's about different options, and I don't think we have to be so gender specific.
And when you come from, so I'm really lucky. I came from a clinical background. I know how to train someone's body. I know how to rehab someone's body in a gym context, in a return to sport, in a return to recreation context. So it's kind of like all mushed together. And then you go to council, and you go to government, and it's like, nope, there's the parks department, and we control the grass for picnics. And then there's the club department, and we control the grass for footy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I want to do a festival where everyone comes and plays sport. So it's just ridiculous to me, the separation that we see in clubland and parks and leisure. So I'm really excited. We're actually doing a program with Proud to Play called Park Life, which is, I don't have access to the parks yet. We'll figure it out. We're essentially getting the rainbow community, we're training them up in soccer and cricket, whatever they want, and we're saying, let's just hang out and play sport or get a coffee or do whatever we want. So it's creating this environment where we bring back that community sense of let's hang out socially and let's move in whatever way we want. So I think we need more intersectionality with meeting the needs of the community, and thinking about clubland is no longer going to be a primarily competitive space. It's already happened. So you can either act now or you can be left behind. So there's a reason we know social sixes, soccer mums, bowling with babies. There's a reason we know these names, because they're social programs that are working. And yes, they're primarily targeted at cisgendered women. But there's no reason why we can't have more rolling rainbow programs out there. Bushrangers basketball are leading the way in inclusion in basketball in the rainbow community. And there's no reason why we can't continue to see these inclusive social sport options coming. Because I know for me, I'd love to do a plethora of sports 24/7, if we're being honest. So if there's these options that I can drop in and drop out of and go with my mates and go rock climbing with the climbing QTs, or do a clam session where I'm doing water ballet and looking phenomenal, this is what I want to do. And I think once you have that group who are regularly social, if you've never done this before, then you'll see the competitive pathways coming through. So for me, it's about grassroots and elite pathways, and having both of those opportunities.
Yeah, awesome. I like that idea too. I want more flexible social sport. Let's learn. I'm not sure about the water ballet though. I don't think it's for me, but I'm sure you are phenomenal at it. All right, I wanted to talk. You've talked about some of this, but just maybe to summarize as we're getting near the end, what are some of the best solutions you're seeing for inclusion for LGBTIQ people? Let's go there specifically in sport. So what are some of the initiatives you're seeing, or some of the actions that people are taking that you think are really creating change?
Yes. So I think the most well-known program that's working is hosting some sort of Pride Cup round. So a visible acknowledgement of our rainbow community, our rainbow friends, and a massive show of allyship. These days usually start small and grow and become an integral part of the calendar. I do strongly urge clubs and sports, though, to clean up. Riley from the QT said something, and I'd never heard this expression before. It was like, clean up your garden before you
clean up your backyard before you put up the flag or something. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm terrible at idioms, but we get the concept. So if you're thinking of doing a Pride Cup, because it sounds like a great idea and it's rainbow led, yes, absolutely. Give us a call at Proud to Play. Let us do some sort of education session with your club, a Zoom or whatever. It can be really chill, just to explain, hey, this is what the LGBT letters mean. This is kind of the statistics behind why people don't feel welcome to walk in a door of a non-traditional sport, and here are some things you can do. So I think education, visibility, such as sort of Pride Cups, and then I also think just really like amplifying the voices of the LGBT community that are already within your club is really important as well.
Yeah, cool. Great tips. And what about, we probably should have done this the other way around, but what do you think are still the major barriers for participation in sport for LGBTIQ plus people?
Yeah, so we know from some research, and I can see my colleague Ryan Storr is in the comments. Hi, Ryan. We know from some research that Ryan's conducted that a lot of people from the rainbow community still have fear of homophobia, discrimination, fear for their safety. We know that the trends of mental health issues with the rainbow community is so much higher. And at the moment, sport for trans people is really scary, particularly what's happening in America with a lot of legislation preventing young people from even playing sport. And we know how life-saving sport can be. Think about how much fun you have playing it. Imagine someone sort of taking that away. So I think in terms of what the barriers are, sometimes what I hear from clubs is this really passive approach to inclusion. And I'm making a pledge that everybody's welcome is banned from inclusion language. We're not allowed to use that anymore, because when I hear someone say, oh, everyone's welcome, what I hear you're saying is, I haven't thought about what the experience might be like for someone who's not me. So everybody's welcome is banned. And what we do need is, we need stickers. We need a review of your social media. Do you have a policy on your social media that says trans athletes are welcome. Here's our trans and gender diverse policy. Here's our LGBT policy. And I know those things take a little bit of work, but it's absolutely worth it in terms of thinking about, are we actually an inclusive club? Because we know the cost of inaction is you're going to be the club that's in the news when you accidentally do something exclusionary and everyone's complaining and you don't know what to do. So it's better to act now and to think, how do we just slowly chip away at this? And I think we're going to be releasing some sort of program soon so that we can sort of have a rainbow tick club. So you have kind of a bit of a guide of how to actually do this, because I know it's hard work, but it really, all it takes is an ally in your club. Please don't make the rainbow community do this themselves. An ally in the club to say, hey, maybe we could do a tiny bit of training. That's the first step. And then from there, we'll give you a few action points, or, maybe you engage with Bree. It doesn't matter, whoever you speak with. It's just about taking those little steps towards how can we be a little bit more actively inclusive as opposed to passively inclusive.
Yeah, I really like that summary. And the thing I'd probably add is ensuring, once you've done this piece and you've done your education, ensuring that the leadership are calling out harmful language, because I think we underestimate, and in clubland, I don't think in the LGBTIQ plus community, but in clubland, we definitely underestimate the impact of language. And it's not just the language that happens, it's a response that happens afterwards that gives you clear signal of whether you're welcome there or not. And as you said, everyone welcome has to be banned. I think also we have to remind leaders and presidents and club administrators that you can't turn around and say they didn't mean anything by it. You're safe here. It's not intentional. It's just words. We have to stop accepting that type of behaviour and really getting clubs need to be so much harsher on players and volunteers and spectators who are using homophobic, transphobic, biphobic language, whatever it is what they're using. So that would probably be the bit I add, but otherwise I think you've nailed it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think as a club, by being ready, by being rainbow ready, whatever we want to call it, it's meaning that you have those responses ready, because when you know better, you can do better. And no one is a perfect leader. I am constantly learning every single day how to better support my allied, as an ally to my trans friends, as a member of the rainbow community. I don't assume that I know everything, and it's okay to make mistakes. Inclusion is this really awkward place where there's no way as an organisation to do the work unless you do the work as an individual, and it's really uncomfortable. So I challenge anyone listening who's thinking, we should probably maybe do something, maybe this is a lovely nudge, to think, can I do the work? Can I sit with a bit of discomfort? Can I maybe think that I have a tiny bit of internalised maybe homophobia and internalised transphobia? Most queer people know that we do. We know that we were raised to think we were bad. So we know we have internalised problems. Exactly. It's okay for allies to also know that at one point they felt a bit funky about it too. So that would be my advice, that we just slowly start chipping away and doing the work. And as you mentioned, be ready to make our position clear on who is welcome at our club. And lovely Emily Fox, was speaking to her last week, and she said sport is about belonging and having fun. If your vision of sport doesn't include everyone belonging and having fun, maybe reevaluate your relationships to sport. And I couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah, no, that is a great quote, and I believe people can watch that interview that you had with Emily too, so you can look that up. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. We've got have reached our time limit, so I will shut us down. I'm so glad that you've come on. I'm so glad to see to be watching your career blossom in this inclusion space. You, as everybody who's watching or listening today can see, you clearly know your stuff here, and you're going to make such big impact across the country and hopefully eventually the globe too, I'm sure. And we'll have to all become mad fans of the roller derby now and watch your progress there too. So thank you again for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Bree, and thank you for the work that you are doing in your LinkedIn Lives and your work for your company. It's brilliant to see more faces saying, I'm here to help, ask me. And it's really brilliant to connect. Thank you.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thank you. All right, everybody. I won't see you next week because I am actually taking some holidays, which might be good, might not, taking the kids to a caravan park. Anyway, I won't be at work, but I will be back the week after that with another guest. So thank you again, everybody, for listening in. As always, I will load up to YouTube and put some captions on there that you can watch tomorrow or the next day, and also share if you feel that way inclined. And as always, please, if you've got guest topics that you want me to discuss on this, let me know. I was talking to Lauren before. I'm learning as much from these sessions as I think everybody else who's listening in is, and so quite often the topics will be things that I'm struggling with or that I'm having to overcome for a client. So if you've got something that's puzzling you, then please let me know, and I would happily address it. Catch you all next time. Thank you. Enjoy your week.